Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Friday Live. This Friday, March the 6th, 2026, and it's 11:11. Hopefully, you guys are having a good Friday so far. And for my Northern Hemisphere peeps, I know it's still Thursday for you. So happy Thursday to you guys. So, as always, I'm here to answer any life or relationship questions that you have. I have a couple of great questions that have been sent in to me this week that I'm looking forward to answering for you guys. And as always, if you have a question that you would like me to answer, pop it in the comments below and I will answer it for you live. And if you are here live, as always, please say hi. Let me know where you're listening from. And if you want to be notified of when I'm going live each week, you can either subscribe to me on YouTube or click the follow button on Facebook, and you'll automatically be notified as to when I am live. So each week, I obviously go through things that have popped up for me this week, whether that be with my relatable students, with my private client work, my couples work, obviously maybe things that have come up in my life that I think may be relevant and helpful to you. And, this week's been a really interesting week. Hey, Melinda, thank you for saying hi, darling. Really appreciate that. I've had obviously I've started work with a new couple in Canada this week. I love my Canadian clients. Canadians are such gorgeous people. I think Aussies and Canadians have such a kinship. We just get each other. Not to say anything about my US peeps. I love you guys too. And I'm still hopefully, even though we've got this war breaking out in the Middle East, I'm really still hopeful that I can get over to you guys towards the end of this year and run that relatable retreat. So, hey, Lee, hi, darling. Thank you for saying hi. And Damien, hello, Damien from Colorado. Beautiful. Colorado Springs, Colorado. What a gorgeous part of the world Colorado is. Really beautiful. If you are live, feel free to pop your comments in or questions in the comments below and I'll answer it for you. So like I said, this has been a really interesting week. I started with a new couple in Canada. And one of the things that I find really interesting that I wanted to share with you guys about that is that when I always start working with a couple, here's a couple of the things that really stand out for me and that are common, right, as a common thread that I see. And I wanted to share the common thread because I think in many ways if you're someone who's struggling in your relationship, you're looking for help, you're stuck, you're not sure what's going on, it can feel very lonely. It can feel like you're the only one in the world who feels this way, or you're the only one having this experience. And so I just want you guys, I thought by sharing this, it might just help some of you who are stuck or feeling like you're the only one in the world having this experience, who are struggling, to know that you're not alone, all right? You're not alone. There's something very calming about seeing the shared human experience. And so I'm very much an advocate of that because I believe that there are far more similarities than there are differences. And strength, peace, progress, capacity, ability to move forward, let go, all of those things come from when we see our sameness as opposed to trying to understand our differences. When we see how our commonalities, it's so calming. It's like we breathe, we let go, we let ourselves off the hook, right? And there's something just really beautiful about that. And so that's why I wanted to just start off today before I get to the lives and before I get to the questions and sort of say, look, when you can see the commonalities, and here's one. So whenever a couple come to me, and, I've now worked with couples in the US, in Canada, in the UK, in Europe, obviously in Australia, New Zealand, Asia, pretty much, every part of the globe. That's the wonderful thing about Zoom, is I get to have these amazing conversations and meet these amazing people. There is this commonality. There's this common thread that I see because, regardless of your culture, your gender, your background, your education, what language you speak, you are a human being, okay? And human beings are, as I just said, far more similar than they are different. And it is in our similarities that we rediscover ourselves, we reconnect, we come back to love, we let go, we forgive. Okay. And we let ourselves off the hook. The amount of people that are stuck in relationships because they're beating themselves up, they're making themselves wrong, they're full of regret about the past, they've got a lot of judgment, and so therefore disconnected or experiencing a strong sense of cognitive dissonance with themselves is huge. And I was actually just sharing this with someone this morning. I've got a gorgeous lady about to do a 4-day intensive with me in just over a week. We're going to spend 4 days together. She's going to come down to the peninsula where I live, and we're going to hang out for 4 days. So I was just having a chat with her about what she wanted to get out of that experience. And I was sharing with her, something that I've seen, that I've had an insight around, and insights are a massive part of the work that I do with people, is pointing you to insight, helping you see your own insights, right? Because insights are the leverage point for change. This is the only way we create long-term sustainable change, is via insight. It is not via willpower. It is via insight. And so when we work together, one of the things that you would start to appreciate more is the gift of insight, recognizing your own insights and truly seeing them. Because when you see your own insights, they have a stronger impact, right? They are something that to me, an insight is something that clears our noisy mind. It quietens the mind, and it enables us to truly let go of what does not serve us. It enables us to connect back to self. And, part of the greatest healing work you can do for yourself, the greatest healing work anyone can do, and this is what I was sharing with this beautiful lady this morning. We talk about the fact that your relationship with you is such an important thing, and it is. But I think that term just skims the surface, right? It really it's a very surface level term. Your relationship with you has a lot to do with, well, it's everything, right? It's not just a relationship with you, it's a relationship with your own light. Okay, it's being able to see your own light. When people see their own light, they spread light, right? They spread light. They spread it everywhere. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's just such a wonderful, wonderful thing. And I consider it such a privilege to be a part of someone's journey where they start to see their own light, because it is the most incredible feeling. And when you're in that feeling, you are operating at a higher level of consciousness. You are operating at a higher level of awareness. You are operating from a space of love, of expansion, of understanding, of compassion, of patience, of kindness, of curiosity, of wisdom. And a human being who operates from that place, like, the feeling of that is a feeling that is beyond description. It cannot be described. It can only be experienced. And of course, when you are in that state of mind, your relatability, your capacity to do relationships well, your emotional bandwidth, and the impact that you have on everyone and everything around you is indescribable, right? Now, this capacity is something every human being has. Nobody missed out on that capacity. Nobody has had it taken away from them due to things that have gone on in their lives. Nobody is missing this. This is your birthright. It is the birthright of every human being on the planet, regardless of gender, regardless of culture, regardless of upbringing, regardless of your language, regardless of religion. This transcends all of those things. It transcends everything. And everybody has capacity for this. There is no one missing it. You may think you are, but that doesn't mean that that is true. Okay. So when you see your light, and to me, this is something that we have become disconnected from, and is one of the reasons why there is so much suffering in the world. Because when we don't see our light, it doesn't feel safe to feel proud of ourselves, right? And this is a huge issue in Australia. Australia really does have a big issue with what we call the tall poppy syndrome. Okay, in Australia, you're considered full of yourself if you were to say to someone, if you were to say to someone wants to come up to you and say, "Hey, how are you?" And you were to say, "You know what, I feel so proud of myself today. I just did this thing and it was just brilliant. Like, I nailed it. I'm doing so well with this. I'm so thrilled with my progress. I just love," like, can you see, like, in Australia in particular, people would look at you and go, "What?" Because that isn't culturally, acceptable. It's interesting though, because one of the things I notice particularly in Americans, there is a strong sense of patriotism. They're very proud of their country. Generally, I mean, there may be some there's people feeling differently about that at the moment, but as a general rule of thumb, culturally, you are brought up to be proud of your country. There's a sense of pride in where you've come from, your roots, and I think that pride ripples out to the individual as well, right? So I don't know how, like, there's a lot, entrepreneurship is something that's embraced more in America and talked about more, and people are proud to talk about their achievements. And I'd like to see that changing more here in Australia, where it's you can walk up to someone and say, hey, I think I'm doing a really good job. I'm really proud of myself. I'm seeing myself, and you're owning it, because this is what enables you to see your own light as well, right? And I cannot tell you how important this is in the journey of healing, the journey of becoming fantastic at relationships, embracing who you are, letting go of the past, all of the things that are amazing for our well-being. And so the more connected you are to your light, the more you see it, the more this compounds. It's something that compounds on itself, and it enables other people to compound, right? And other people to see their own light. Now, imagine being around that, right? Imagine being in relationship with someone who sees that. Imagine being around that. Just try and imagine what that's like. And, I think, to me, this is such an important part of our journey, and one we kind of brush over a little bit. We kind of go, yeah, I know that. I've got to like myself more. And yeah, I need to love myself more, and blah, blah, blah. But it's, I think, getting in touch with how integrally important it is, like seeing that above all else. Because, there's something beautiful about a human being that embraces their light and is in touch with it. It gives permission for the people around them to do so. Right? It gives permission for the people around them to do so. And in our relationships, just think about the impact of that in a family unit. And then as the family unit changes, so everything starts with the individual, but individuals are so much more powerful than we give ourselves credit for. Way more powerful. You give yourself permission to embrace that. It impacts the family unit. The family unit then impacts the unit that's around that unit impacts the other unit, and the next, and before you know it, a whole community is impacted. And then as communities become impacted, they impact other communities, which impacts whole countries. And then as whole countries become impacted, they impact other communities in other countries, and on and so forth it goes. This is the power that one human being has. And I think if people understood that, they would embrace that more, because they could see the power that they have to impact the collective, right? One person has the power to impact the collective, because on a collective level, we are all connected. We are all connected via the same consciousness. Every living creature is connected that way. So, the more deeply you see this, the more powerful it becomes. And this is one of the reasons why I am so passionate about relationships and our ability to do them well, and then the impact that has on you, your family, communities, countries, and then planets collective, right? That's just how it works. So anyway, I wanted to kind of start off with that, because this, to me, is something that I had an insight around it a couple of weeks ago, and it's been deepening for me over the last kind of fortnight. And then, I had that conversation this morning. So coming back to the couple that I started working with this week, from Canada, whenever I work with a couple, I meet with them first together, and then we have some separate sessions, and then we come back together after that when I think they're ready, right? And, in those separate sessions, they're very, very important, because it gives everyone a chance to just kind of say what's on their mind, to work through stuff without sitting there worrying about what their partner's thinking, not thinking, whether they agree with something their partner said, not said, which can really get in the way of our ability and capacity to have an insight, right? So I started working with them both separately this week. And it was their first session. And here's what I found really really interesting. And I find very interesting in every couple that I come across, right? Because the biggest thing on a couple's mind generally when we get started is, will this change my partner? Okay. Will this change my partner? Like, I know I've got stuff, Fiona. I know I'm not perfect, but I just want to know, if we do this, will they do X? Right. Now, this is generally what each person is asking me about the other one. Right. This is common across every couple that I work with. They want to know, okay, I know I've got stuff, but if we learn this, will they do X? Will this person be different? And this is going to lead into the question that I've been asked today that I want to also talk about in a moment. And, and I totally get it, because once upon a time, that's what I thought, right? That's what I thought. If I do this, or if we do this, will that make my husband do X, Y, Z? Will that change my husband somehow? Because in my mind, that was the issue, right? The issue was him. I mean, I know I had some things to do with, but really the biggest issue was, how can I get my husband to do X, Y, Z, or be more like X, Y, Z, right? And then the male version of that is, how can I get my wife to be less X, Y, Z and be more A, B, C, right? That's where everybody starts. And even though we have enough awareness to go, there's something going on for us, it truly does look like the issue is that. All right. And just, Fiona, I'm happy to do this, but if you could just reassure me that this is going to change that. All right. And I get it. All right. I really do get it. But because this is what we're taught to believe about the world, the way the world works. This thing out here is determining my experience of everything. And so if you could just fix this thing, my experience will change. And of course, it's actually the opposite. And that's a big part of the conversation that I teach inside of Relatable, and where people start to really experience emotional, spiritual freedom, because they're no longer puppets on a string determined by that thing out here. So anyway, I start working with this couple this week, and of course, each one has their own version of that. And so I thought it might be interesting for me to share this with you, because if this is a common thread that I see in the couples that I work with, if you're someone sitting there struggling, then I'm going to presume, I know it's an assumption and it's maybe not true for everyone, but probably the great majority, that is the case for you. You're sitting there thinking, how can I get X to be different? How can I get that person to change? How can I get them to be more like this and less like that, right? This is the big question everybody has. And all I'm going to say to you is, none of that will be any different. Truly, none of that will be any different until, in a meaningful way, none of that will be any different in a meaningful way until, and I'm going to come back to the insight that I just started with, until you can see your own light, until you are in touch with that. And here's the reason why. As much as you may want to create change, as much as you may want things to be different, as much as you may try really hard, right? And trying really hard looks like staying calm, not getting angry when you feel angry, trying not to shut down as much, trying to forget that hurtful thing that you feel that person said, trying to let go of stuff. Now, can you hear what I'm saying? What's the theme in what I'm saying? Can you feel what's coming from me as I describe this, as I describe what the average person is trying to do here? I'm trying to stay calm. I'm trying not to get upset about that thing. I'm trying to let go of that thing. I'm trying to overcome this thing. I'm trying really hard, right? Can anyone, what can you hear in what I'm just sharing? Just even that right now. Like, can you pick up on something as you hear this in me? Because this is where most people are when they're trying to create change, whether it be in a relationship, their life somewhere else. Hey, Karen. Hi, Deezer. Thank you for saying hi. There's a couple of bizarre comments from people on YouTube there, but I'll just let those go. Hello. Hey, Roz. Great to hear things are happening for you, honey. I'm really, really happy to hear that. That's awesome. Really awesome. Good for you. So I'm just curious, can anyone hear something, a commonality in what I'm saying here? Please pop it in the comments below if you can. because it's very, very important what I'm sharing with you right now. Very, very important, especially in terms of creating change and wanting things to be different. Can you hear a commonality in what I'm sharing? So someone is trying really hard, right? They're trying to find the right words. They're trying to stay calm, trying not to shut down. If you're someone who turtles and disappears, maybe you're the hailstorm who yells and screams. Maybe you're trying really hard, right? Yes, Robert, I am saying try. I know. I'm saying try a lot. I'm trying really hard. Deezer, work. Yeah, like it feels like a lot of work, doesn't it? If you're trying really hard and it feels like a lot of work, what does that imply, right? Melinda, it's all hard work and you're ignoring your own needs. Yeah, I'm working really hard here. I'm trying really hard. What's the inevitable endpoint of that, right? Yep, lots of willpower, Lee. Yes, thank you, everyone. Keep them coming. This is awesome. Lots of willpower. What is the inevitability of where I'm headed, do you think? If I'm trying really hard, I'm working really hard, what do you think is going to happen from this point? Where am I going to end up? Just have a guess. Don't worry about it. It's not about right or wrong. I'm just trying to explore something with you guys. All right. I'm trying to get you guys to think and open your minds a little bit. Hence why I asked this. Where do you think the inevitability of that is going to be? Right? Yep. Burnout. I'm going to run out of steam and give up. I'm going to get frustrated. William. Hey, William. Thanks for that. Resentment. Yes, that's exactly right. Because what starts to happen if you feel like, right, you're trying really hard, you're working really hard, you're going to get to a point, because this is such a human thing to do and everybody does it, you're going to get to a point where you're going to start comparing how hard you're trying to how hard the other person is trying, aren't you? Right? Yeah, absolutely. You're gonna exactly, Lee. Resentment, judgment. I'm gonna end up blaming the other person 100%. That's the can you see how inevitable that is? Because if you're pushing things down, if you're trying not to get angry, but you really do feel like that was justified because the other person was being difficult and they shouldn't have said that thing, or they didn't do the thing you wanted them to do, or whatever, or they didn't listen, and you feel that anger is justified, you feel that the judgment is justified, but you got to try. You can't say you weren't trying, so you're trying really hard. You're pushing it down. You're ignoring it. You're trying to stay calm, but really underneath that, you kind of feel that you have the right to be upset. Kind of still feel like it's the other person's fault, but you're trying. It is inevitable that you're going to get into a form of competition, because that's where people end up. They compete with each other. And that competitive frame of mind, that comparative frame of mind, is a very adversarial frame of mind. Very adversarial frame of mind. And here's the problem with that. That frame of mind will be the thing that the other person notices, as opposed to how hard you're trying. Right? Because you've got to understand we're energetic beings and our energy enters the room before we do. Always. It's just how it is. And we are operating, we're communicating energetically before we are physically. So even though you may be trying really hard, what the other person is picking up on is your frustration, resentment, your judgment, the fact that they'll be feeling like they're doing something wrong, but they don't know what it is. So that's going to have them feeling tense. They're going to be picking up on your tenseness. They're going to be picking up on all of these things. Okay. And so this is why it can feel like you're spinning your wheels. Right. And I often see this with couples who've been in a lot of traditional couples therapy, because they've done a lot of talking about things, a lot of spinning the wheels. But there's been so much tension, so much resentment, so much judgment, people feeling burnt out. And there's just a lot of all of that stuff. So people are in a very wary an adversarial frame of mind. It's almost like the defenses are up and they're waiting for things to go pear-shaped. It's like there's no firm ground for them to hold on to grab hold of, right? There isn't a foundation there. There's just this shaky, wobbly baseline. And it's like we're just waiting for the house of cards to fall down again. And inevitably it will, and it does. But then when it falls down, the recovery is twice as hard. Now, it's twice as hard because what you're left with is, I'm trying harder than you. I've tried really hard and you didn't appreciate it. I'm the only one working on this, you're not. That's what you're kind of left with. So what has anyone got to hold on to pick themselves back up, to put things down, to move forward, if it feels like you're the only one doing all the work, or you're trying harder than the other person, right? Can you see that? It just feels like there's nothing for anyone to hold on to. There's nothing to rebuild from. And so this is why things can just go down this really, really slippery slope until it feels like you're miles away from each other, and it feels like that mountain is so high that you don't know if you've got the energy to even begin to climb it. Because, you've climbed that thing that many times, you've tried that hard, you've pushed things down, do you know what I mean? Like, and then you get to a point, you go, this doesn't feel good. I'm exhausted. I'm not getting anywhere. Yeah. So you just, that's exactly right. Damien, you feel like a failure? Exactly right. And so you give up, because it's actually less painful to give up, right, than to feel like a failure. That's a very, very painful place to be. William, I'm just reading out your comment. Hurts a lot when you know you're the issue, and it always comes with guilt, shame, and the whole gauntlet of feelings. The path forward is not feeling based, though. I'm not sure what you mean by the path forward is not feeling based, though. But yeah, of course it hurts a lot when it feels like you're always the issue, when you can't get it right, when you know what I mean? That is a very, very painful place to be. And as human beings, we are, whether we understand this or not, we are driven by the need to feel good. We are driven by the need to feel good. When I say feel good, I'm not talking about positive thinking. I just mean we're driven by the need. We really are, whether you're aware of this or not. And I've spoken to literally thousands of people over the years now, from all walks of life, from very wealthy people to not so wealthy people to whatever, right? Everybody is looking for the same thing. We truly are. Again, I'm going to come back to the sameness that I was talking about at the start of this live. We're all looking for the same thing. We all want a sense of peace and calm in our lives. We do. You would be amazed at how many people want that. Everybody wants that. We want to feel a sense of peace and calm, irrespective of what's going on around us. We want to feel present and connected. This is what people crave. And, sometimes we'll start working and they don't know that that's what they're craving. And then they realize that's what they're craving, right? And when you get clear on that, the path forward to that becomes easier and easier and easier and easier. And the things that trip you up stop making sense. It's like, why would I want to go down that path when this path is available to me? When I can feel like this? Because remember, guys, this is true. And I like to speak, when I talk and share, I always speak from a place of what is truth. Now, a truth, for those of you who are unfamiliar with what I mean by that, I know some of you on this live know what I mean by that. But a truth is only a truth if it applies to everybody, right? That's the only thing that's a truth, if it applies to everybody. Otherwise, it's simply an opinion or a preference, okay? And I'm not saying those things aren't valid, but I'm talking about what's true, because I'm looking at the commonalities between human beings, all right? So something that is true for everyone, and I have never met an exception, is this: the quality of the feeling you live in determines the quality of your life. Okay? The quality of the feeling you live in determines the quality of your life. So, the feeling you live in is very, 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 very important. Hence why I am very protective over the feeling I live in. I'm very protective of it because it determines everything. Everything, right? Now, if you don't understand how feelings work, what generates them, where they come from, you can get very tripped up and confused by that. Again, this is something I go into great detail inside my signature program, Relatable. We look at this in depth because when you really understand that in depth, life and the things that come along in life, like life as a contact sport, the stuff that comes along and kind of knocks us sideways when we least expect it, becomes so much easier to navigate. You know, I had one of my gorgeous Relatable students. He's actually he joined my Relatable program a year ago, and he's just signed up for another year. He was sharing with us all on Wednesday, such a lovely fellow. He was sharing with us on Wednesday his journey. He said, now that I've been here a year, I want to share with you my journey. And it was quite gorgeous to hear him share. He said, when I joined, my wife and I, he said, I felt like someone who was stuck, locked up, imprisoned. I felt like I couldn't move within myself. Everywhere I looked, it felt wrong, or I couldn't get it right, and I was just like this. I felt like I was in this within myself, inside this internal prison in my mind, because everything just felt so hard. Everything felt impossible. There was this sense of hopelessness, like it was just so hard. And he goes, my wife and I were not getting on at all, like at all. And I was in such despair. And I was in such despair about my marriage, but in so many areas, I felt so like this, like I couldn't breathe because everything felt so like the walls had closed in on me. And he said, and I've got a retreat coming up for my Relatable students. The first one I've run in Melbourne in May, and he said to me, I nearly started crying. He said, "Oh, my wife is coming to the retreat." And I'm like, "What?" Like it was just. He goes, "Yeah, she's coming, Faye. She's coming." And I haven't met her. She hasn't done my program, but like that just blew my mind because I knew where they were, and he's the only one that's done the program. And they were in a like barely communicating. And he said, the thing that is amazing to me is I feel so light. I feel so free. That locked up feeling's gone. He goes, I feel like me again. I feel like I found myself. And he said, and my wife and I, if we have an argument now or a disagreement, it's over in minutes. Our disagreements used to last for weeks, months. They just went on and on and on. It's gone. It's finished. And we just come back to where we were. And he said, and you could see it in him, the lightness in him. And this is what I mean by that light feeling, is that light feeling that is in him that I could see in his eyes, in his skin, in his face, in his energy. That comes from literally getting back in touch with your own light. That's like, do you know what I mean? It's not an accident that he feels so light. That's what happens, right? And it spreads out to everything and everyone around you, right? And, that's what's occurred inside him and in his marriage. So he just lives in a completely different feeling. And he said that, I just live in a totally different feeling now. And this has just become a part of my life. And he said, it's just unbelievable, the difference. So, I guess I wanted to share that with you because it's such a beautiful story, but I wanted you to know, no matter what your situation, no matter what's been going on for you, your capacity to get back in touch with your light is always there. It doesn't go anywhere. You haven't lost it. It's not missing. You're just disconnected from it right now. Okay. And it is possible to get back in touch with it again. And when you do, amazing ripple effects happen in your life and the lives of the people around you. And I can tell you story after story after story after story of things like this. William, follow a long cycle of feeling results from what you have just described. Learning how to step off and away from that cycle is key. To learn of the various things you teach adds deeply to this. Thank you for all you're doing, Fiona. You're welcome, William. You're so welcome. Thank you for that. Hey, Deeza, honey, it only takes one person to change a relationship. I would never have believed it before. Relatable. Oh, thank you, darling. Thank you, Deeza. Appreciate your kind words, honey. And yeah, your story is an amazing story as well, Deeza. Amazing story. So I wanted to share that with you guys. And now I just want to come into and answer the question, because we're already at the 35-minute mark. Oh my goodness, I don't know where the time goes. I start talking and it just seems to fly by. I hope that feels that way for you guys. You're not sitting here going, what is this woman raving on about? Hey, Peter. Once you realize that life isn't personal and you don't take it that way, it's genuinely freeing. Yeah, so freeing. So freeing, like crazily so. Thank you, Peter. Okay, so here is the question that has been sent to me. Hi, Fiona. How do you create safety and intimacy in a relationship where one partner is frequently dysregulated, struggling with sleep, and relying on sex for emotional regulation? And how do you know whether this is something that can be repaired with communication or if the pattern itself requires outside help or deeper change? Great question. I'm going to read it out again. How do you create? In fact, what I might do is put this in the comments section. That may help people. I'm going to put that in the comments. This is the question that's been asked. All right. So how do you create safety and intimacy in a relationship where one partner is frequently dysregulated, struggling with sleep, and relying on sex for emotional regulation? And how do you know whether this is something that can be repaired with communication or if the pattern itself requires outside help or deeper change? Great question, and one that I'm sure many of you will relate to. And I just want to say, first of all, I love this question because I can feel the courage that it has taken to ask it. And if you're the person who sent this in, I want you to know the fact that you're asking this tells me something really important. Like you haven't given up, you're still in it, and that matters, right? It really does. So thank you for asking this question. I really, every question that you guys send in helps the collective, right? It helps the collective, and that's what I'm all about. I'm all about helping the collective. Each individual that shifts helps the collective, right? Each one does, because you're powerful beyond measure. Okay, so let me first of all paint the picture of what I think is really going on here. You're lying next to someone you love, but you probably feel very alone. They're not sleeping, they're snappy or shut down, or they're kind of vacillating between the two. And when they reach for you physically, something in you knows that it's not really about connection. It's about them trying to feel okay. And that's a really lonely place to be, right? It can feel really lonely. And I'm sure, you want to help, but maybe whatever you're saying isn't really resonating or landing with them. I guess the first thing I want to say is your partner isn't doing this to you. Okay, they're not doing this to you. It may vary. I appreciate it probably appears that way, feels this way. But when someone is running on empty, like they're not sleeping, they're emotionally all over the place, they will reach for whatever fills the gap fastest. For some people, it's food. For some, it's alcohol. For some, it's their phone. And for some, it's sex, right? It's not a conscious strategy. It's a person drowning who's grabbing onto whatever's closest. And I'm not saying that makes it okay. It doesn't mean you have to accept it. But understanding, and I'm a big advocate of understanding. Understanding really can take some of that personal sting out of it. And when we can reduce the personal sting, our mind goes from retraction to expansion, and we get access to better thinking. Now, I want to just kind of address this part of it. Can communication fix this? Look, here's my honest answer to that. It's yes and no. Talking helps when both people are in a calm enough place to actually hear one another. And, listening is such a big connection issue, because most people are terrible listeners. They think they're better listeners than they are. And this is why I've dedicated a whole module to listening inside my Relatable program, because there is just it's such an important thing, and people don't know how to do it very well, and overestimate their capacity as when they're listening. So people have to both be in a calm enough place to really hear one another for communication alone to really fix this. But if your partner is genuinely dysregulated, running on no sleep, emotionally reactive, and then trying to have a big conversation about the relationship is probably going to be like trying to read a map in a hurricane, okay? The information might be really helpful, what you're sharing might be really important, but, they're not in the state of mind to be able to take it in. So the first question isn't, how do we communicate better? It's, is my partner actually in a state of mind where they can hear me right now? Okay, that's got to be the first thing you want to ask yourself. Are they in a state of mind where they can actually hear you right now? And then I guess the other aspect to this question, because I feel like there's three elements to this question really, is, when does something like this need outside help? And I guess here's my rule of thumb, if you can call it that. I try not to have rules around things, because to me, every moment is a fresh moment, and we need to be responsive to a fresh moment rather than the rule itself. Okay, so, but if you've gently named what you're noticing, hey, I can see you're struggling and I'm worried about you, and nothing shifts over time, if the sleep issues are chronic, if the emotional reactions are getting bigger, not smaller, if sex has become more like a pressure valve than a choice, then yes, I would advocate individual support for your partner is definitely worth exploring, very important. Probably not couples counselling first, individual support for them, because what you're describing sounds like someone who needs the space to be able to look at what's going on inside them without the added pressure of the relationship conversation first, okay? And this is a big reason why I do individual sessions with my couples, is so I can take care of what's going on at an individual level for that person without the pressure of the relationship and the other things that come with it. What's going on for that person individually that we can take care of on an individual level, because as I just said at the start, your capacity to connect with your own light is the most important thing, and then everything kind of flows from there. So what's going on for that person at an individual level, let's take care of that, and then let's now look at the relationship and what needs to change around that, right? But we start here, because what you're describing sounds like someone who needs that ability to look inside themselves, right? That space and time. And here's the part, I guess, nobody says. You might need some support too, right? You're going to need some support, not because you're broken, but because loving someone who is struggling can be exhausting, right? And you deserve to have someone in your corner, all right? You deserve to have someone in your corner who can hear you, where you feel seen, right? It's very important. If you're in a relationship with someone who is struggling, maybe they've got some sleep issues, some mental health issues, and you're someone who's doing a lot of emotional support, it is important that you have someone in your corner that you feel seen, because it may be a long time. It may have been a long time since you've felt seen, since you've felt supported, right? And you're reaching that burnout stage, which so many do when they don't have anyone in their corner and they don't feel seen. It feels very lonely and hard, okay? But I also want to leave you with this. I've specialized in this space. I've worked with couples now for 16 years, and I've seen relationships that have looked far more stuck than what you're describing come back to life. Not because someone found the right communication script or the right communication tool, but because just one person started to see what was really going on underneath the noise, the chaos, the difficulty. And that shift in one person changed the entire dynamic. So look, I don't think your relationship is broken. I think you're in a hard season and you're looking for a way through this, which is awesome, like good for you. And the fact that you're here asking this question, that's already the beginning of this, right? So I just want you to know I see you, I hear you, and I would certainly be encouraging your partner to get some support and help just for their own sake, and so that they can explore that individually. And I would encourage you to get some support and help so that you feel seen and heard, and it doesn't feel like you're on your own spinning your wheels here. This is very, very, very important. This is what's going to enable you to be in that good feeling whilst you're navigating something difficult like this. Often couples come to me and a very common thing that I'll hear someone say is, I never imagined we would be in this situation, Fee. I never imagined that. When we got together, we were so in love, and I met someone that I could see myself doing life with the rest of my life, and there's so many aspects about them that I love. I don't understand how we got here. I never imagined my life would look like this. I mean, these are common things people say to me. And so if you are in that state of mind, if you are feeling that way, you are more than I just want you to know you're not alone. You're more than welcome to reach out for support. As you know, I do couples counseling. I have my online program, Relatable. All of these things are incredibly helpful in enabling you guys to find your way back to each other, and where you can get individual support as well as support as a couple. And, it's so important that you find your way back home. This is the beginning of everything. People who know what home feels like within themselves, as I said at the start of this live, they have access to their own light, and that is a feeling. And I've had many people say this to me, being able to access this feeling is beyond anything that money could ever buy. It is a feeling that I never knew was available to me. And it is a priceless feeling. It's a feeling I never want to lose. It's a feeling I want to have in my life, or be able to access time and time again in my life for the rest of my life. Because remember, the quality of the feeling you live in determines the quality of your life. Okay, so thank you so much. Oh my goodness, this is probably the longest live I've ever done. I've got to go. All right, this is crazy. I've been speaking for nearly 50 minutes. Thank you everyone for being here. I truly, truly hope that this has been helpful to you. If you would like to explore working couples counseling with me, or you want to know more about my Relatable program, you can send an email to me at hello@fionalukis.com.au. And we can point you in the right direction. If you would like to send an email with a question for next week's live, you can also send it to that email, hello@fionalukis.com.au, and just send it in question for Friday live. Feel free to share this live with someone who may need some support, and please subscribe to me on YouTube. Follow me on Facebook. It just helps more people find my work. It pushes the algorithm out to more people. Thank you all for your support, everyone. I truly appreciate it. Thanks for your questions. Thank you, Deezer, honey, Peter, William. Appreciate you all so much. Lots of love, everyone. See you next week. Bye.